Welcome to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf instruction podcast that helps you take control of your game. Now, here's your host, the founder of Par Breakers Golf Academy and certified Golf Channel Swing Fix instructor, Bernard Sheridan.
So, Cheryl, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Bernie, for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, we have met before. This isn't our first time. And, through proponent group and things like that. And then we've also actually run into each other at some seminars and things like that. And we kind of run in a lot of the same circles. So it's really good to see you again. And so tell us a little bit about what's going on at the Mike Bender Golf Academy down there in Lake Mary, Florida. And I know that you're not there right now because you're kind of escaping from the summer heat, but tell us some of the things that you're doing down there with some of the students.
Well, I guess our most famous student by far is Zach Johnson, and he almost won the John Deere yesterday. So he's getting ready for the British Open, and Mike's been out working with him on tour over the summer months. And then we also had some other exciting news with Chella Choi in the U.S. Women's Open this week. That's Mike's student as well, since she was about 13, I believe. She shot a 29. And that's the lowest 9 ever recorded in the U.S. Women's Open history.
Wow, that's exciting.
That's a pretty good thing going on. And
then
I just had one of my students, Abby Carlson. She was tied for the Florida Women's Open. It's a 3-day tournament, and she lost in a 4-hole playoff. But she's definitely doing well, and she's got another year of high school before she heads off to Vanderbilt. So that's a typical week at the Mike Bender Golf Academy.
There you go. Everybody needs typical weeks like that, huh? In this industry.
Yeah.
That would be some good things. So you guys have a huge junior program down there with a lot of juniors that are coming from all over the planet to be a part of the learning experience that happens down there. And you have a great handle on that. So give us an idea as to, for some juniors down there, and not just like juniors all over the place, what should they be looking for in a program like yours if they can't get to your academy and be a part of it?
Well, as you know, it depends on their age and their motivation level. But for anyone that's new to the game, I would always suggest looking for a fun program. We have the U.S. Kids Learning Program that one of our coaches teaches, and that's an extraordinary program. It's so well organized and it's fun for the kids, and that's really our feeder program that helps expose kids to golf, and hopefully, they can take on and move on down the chain to our other programs. So we have the U.S. Kids and we have Girls Golf, I would say right at the bottom of the chain, and those are to just kind of get kids into the game, make sure they have fun, and if they find that they like golf and want to get better, then we move them into our Young Guns program, which is for kids between the ages of 10 to 13 years old. And that's a more structured program where they get 2 lessons a month. Doesn't seem like a lot, but they also get practice sessions twice a month, and then we also play on the golf course with them once a month. So it's not a huge commitment. We still want the kids to play other sports and be active and become athletes. And then after they experience that for a little bit, they might want to get into our Junior Champions program, which is for kids from 13 to 18 years old. Then we get more serious. It's a lesson every week. That's practice session every week. It's more intense training and a lot more assessments that go into this kind of program. A lot of goal setting. We have a mental coach on staff that starts working with the kids and their families. And then after Junior Champions, our last step, our creme de la creme, is our elite program. And this is a program that really attracts kids from around the world. We have kids from Malaysia in there, from China, from Korea, from America, of course. And this is like the IMG Academy per se, but in a smaller a smaller spectrum. So we have about 10 kids in the program now. We can handle up to 20. And this is where they have intense training. It's like Olympic style training, and they get everything that we offer. And that's pretty much what we have. And what would I suggest that people look for? Good coaching, first of all. You have to have expert coaching because you need feedback in golf. And golf is one of those games that you don't get a lot of feedback from unless your parents are really watching you play all the time. So a good coach can organize practice so that the children continue to improve and enjoy the sport in the long run.
Now, the bulk of the students that you're working with, are they, for you personally, are they mainly junior students, or is there a broad spectrum of students that you're working with through adults also?
Yeah, I would say 65 to 70% of my clientele is junior golfers, and they're the competitive ones. I work with mostly the young guns and the junior champions and the elite program. So we have two other instructors that work mainly with the kids from like 6 to 10 years old. I love working with those kids too, but we have such a big group of kids that are in that young gun junior champion age. So that's what I really love to work with. And then I also do a lot of golf schools. I get a lot of people that come from the north in the wintertime especially. And I have a nice group of local adult students that I like to teach as well.
Sure. So you're keeping really busy. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, and that elite program that you guys do there, are those kids there every single day? I know that I was fortunate enough a few years back to visit the academy, and that was through a thing that Proponent Group was doing, and that was just like excellent. How they're staying at a school, and then they're coming to the academy in the afternoon, and they're working on different parts of their game, and then all the different things that you guys had there was awesome, with like the training facility and exercise and mental game, and then you had a separate bay that was with TrackMan, and then you had a Sam's Lab, and so using a lot of technology. So how often are you using that technology with the juniors that you're working with? And is that on a regular, ongoing basis that you're using that stuff in lessons, especially private stuff, or is it where you're not using it as often, you're touching base with it and using it occasionally as a reference point?
Whew, big question. Yeah. We have an incredible facility, and I that's why I moved down to Florida, honestly, because I could never do any of this at the clubs that I was working at in New York. And Mike Bender is such a genius at helping people to make swing changes. And I wanted to be around that environment. And he created something called the MEGSA units. I should have a picture up, but it stands for Most Efficient Golf Swing Attainable. And if you can imagine this huge contraption, and there's like all these different pieces that we can put on there to make basically an obstacle course for our students. That's honestly the one that I use the most.
Okay.
Because when I have a student, and let's say they're working on getting their arms to be a little lower at the top of their backswing, I show them how to set it up. They can set it up by themselves. I walk by, I double check. They're doing it properly. So they need me there to make sure that they're doing it right. But again, they don't need me there. They can work on their swing on their own for a little bit, and then I can come back and check on them. So that's a piece of equipment I use the most. The TrackMan I certainly use a lot. We do the combines with our, competitive juniors to get a gauge of where their game is at. I'm always checking and assessing throughout the year. So we do utilize TrackMan a lot. We utilize Sam Putt Lab at least once a month. Depends on the student's issue. Let's say I have a girl who is struggling with tempo. So I'm going to put her on there and just get feedback. Is the tempo improving? How's her rhythm doing? For like 20 minutes, and then we go back out to the putting green. So that's kind of how we use the TrackMan too. Let's say I want to work on somebody's weak link. Let's say Michael's weak link right now is his wedge game. So I'm going to work on giving him a challenge to do. I learned this one from Cameron McCormick,
Okay.
which has been a huge help. Because we have the wedge range there. I don't know if you remember that. But
absolutely. Yeah.
Yard blocks or 4x4 cement blocks out in the field. And, we've got the kids working on landing the balls on different blocks, changing all the time, giving them different challenges, and they love it. It's a lot of fun. But then going to the TrackMan and now working on trajectory control. Okay, so I want you to hit the 60-yard wedge with a low trajectory, a medium trajectory, and a high trajectory. And I'm going to give you a 2-yard variance so you can hit it 58 to 62. And let's see how many times it takes you to land it on that block. So that's how I'm using the TrackMan more and more. And like I said, just constantly figuring out ways to push the kids where they feel challenged so that they can get better, and also not fight boredom, because I've been at fault for maybe not pushing some kids hard enough. And I've learned from that, and they've told me, I feel bored in that group. Okay, well, what can I do to make it more challenging then? So that's really the key, as you and I both know, to getting someone to the next level.
Oh, yeah, sure. So when players get better, I mean, I love the idea of changing trajectories. I think that that's great. I mean, and you know what? The average player, they don't think about that at all. And I've noticed that too. I know that when I take players out on the golf course, and we're inside 100 yards, they feel like they have to use a high trajectory every single shot that they're there, or because or if they miss the green, and they're like 20 yards off the green in the rough, they again feel like they have to use this high trajectory to land the ball soft on the green. And I try to explain to them that if you change your trajectories a little bit, you don't always have to do that. I mean, like, what's in the way? Is there a hazard? Do you have to clear a hazard? All right, well, then you might have to hit it high and soft. But if you don't, then this way, the things that you're working on with the TrackMan and change trajectories and trying to hit those blocks, which are tough enough. I mean, because those blocks are not very big blocks.
No.
And then again, for those of our listeners who have never seen that, what they have is they have concrete blocks out there at different distances and in different spots, and then players are trying to get the ball to land on that block, and when it does, it bounces real high in the air, so they immediately know that it does it. It is absolutely ingenious. I think that every academy who has the room should have something like that. Because it just makes you, I mean, that is really where it's all happens is inside of 100 yards.
It is. And, they're so easy to put up. I don't know why every range in America doesn't have them, because the driving range cart could literally drive right over them and pick up all the balls. So it really is not any more labor intensive than not having them. And then Mike also added, you haven't seen this, but he added like this rope. I would say it's about 10 steps out in front of the mat where we hit balls from. And it's a trajectory rope. So you have to flight your ball, through these two ropes to have the optimal trajectory.
Nice.
So, another challenge for people. And then, of course, you can hit them over. But, you got to make practice fun for however many hours these kids are out there. We've got to keep finding ways to make it fun and challenging at the same time.
Yeah, so now they have a window that they have. I mean, I know that metaphor of seeing a window in the mind's eye and trying to hit it through the window. But if there's something that's actually physically there, now, because some people, they can't visualize that, and they can't see it go through it. But if there's something physically there, now it's they see it and they can do it. I remember when we were down there, Mike did a thing with alignment sticks and like construction paper, and then had guys hit the ball through the construction paper, and that's like basically a window too. So he has tons of like really great ideas. It's no reason that he's so successful. And that you also are very successful too, because you're in that environment all the time, and it changes the way you think about things, and it allows as instructors for you guys to think well outside of the box. I know that Mike is a outside of the box thinker to begin with.
Definitely. Yeah, that's, it's important for the students to be in that kind of environment to push them along. And it's important for me to be in that environment too, because, I was feeling stale at a certain spot in my career. So coming down to Mike's, you've got to be sharp and fresh and trying to figure out new ways.
Well, and that too is a tremendous motivator for yourself. I mean, because it makes you feel motivated to go to work every day and to do
Yes.
things because you don't feel like you're getting stale or it's the same old thing over and over again. And then having the opportunity to be in an environment where you can teach year round, and then also be in a situation where with the elite program where you have juniors coming from all over, that has to be really extremely enjoyable to work with different players from different countries and get their kind of take, even though they're juniors, get their kind of take on some of the things that they're doing or that they've learned up until the point that until they had the opportunity to work with you.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of a couple of students. Ooh, big thunderstorm coming here in the Adirondacks.
Wow.
But a couple of students that showed up from, they're both from China actually, and they're young girls, and they didn't really like golf.
Wow.
Like,
and they're coming to spend the time at a school and do golf every single day.
And this is, like you said, they go to school until 2 o'clock, and from 2 to 6 o'clock, we teach them golf Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
So obviously, all our minds go into what are we going to do?
Yeah.
How are we going to make them have fun? So that was really fun to collaborate as a group. And honestly, these two girls have both won tournaments in Florida, pretty big tournaments, and they love golf now. So that's really rewarding for me because at first you're like, ooh, maybe we should talk to the parents. Maybe we should send them home.
Yeah.
Well, no, let's figure out how we can make them love golf. And I think they love it. And one of them told us that she wants to turn professional now. Okay, great.
That's a huge triumph.
Huge.
I mean, to go from someone who is not even interested to thinking about taking it on as a career, you should be very proud of yourself for that. That's fantastic.
It's a group effort, and thankfully there's a lot of people like you and through the proponent group and not in the proponent group that give ideas, just simple things like, okay, what makes this girl happy? She liked chocolate. Okay, we'll give her a piece of chocolate when she works hard enough at something. And it kind of grows. So I'm thankful to all the many coaches who put information out because we learn from all of you as well.
Well, and that's like I've always said about this show. It's the main reason why. There's two reasons why I have this show. One is to grow the game of golf and to let people learn more about golf across the board. The other is so that I learn more about golf because I learn so many things, and every single time I do this show with different ideas that instructors or that people who are providing a product to help. Like I just launched a show today with Ken Pierce Golf Gym. Love
that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's little things like that really, and then you learn so much. And then these are things that other students can learn from, other instructors can learn from, and we all learn from each other. There's always something to learn. I always like it when I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Not that happens too often, but but it's always nice to not be because then you're going to walk away with learning something and becoming smarter and getting information and insight from some really brilliant minds that are. I mean, that's another thing that I love about going to seminars and things like that, and just having guests like yourself on this show. I mean, it's just there's always something to learn. It's really an awesome time.
Mm-hmm.
So to segue from that, because that was kind of, but basically, you're working with all these different kids, and you're trying to keep it fresh all the time. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing with juniors. Juniors get bored quickly. I know that for me, when I had a pretty large junior program, and since I'm relocating, this is actually for me the first year that I haven't done a full junior camp for about 8 to 10 weeks in the summer in 17 years. So it feels really weird for me to not be working with juniors like for a bulk of the summer. But what I used to do as a motivator was I would create what I called par breakers, bucks. And they were basically money that I would give the kids at the beginning of the week. And I would say, okay, everybody gets $10. You got to hang on to that money all week. And if you lose that money, it's gone. If you do some things, you win some contests, or you get competitive, you can win $3 for first place, $2 for second place, $1 for first place. If you're paying attention all the time, you're at the end of a session, you're going to get $1 for that. If you do something that's negative, you're going to pay me $1. Well, all of a sudden now, attention is really focused. Kids are having a great time. And then at the end of the week, they hand in their money. And with the amount of money that they have, they get to choose from prizes. So it's almost like they're buying those prizes with that money that they had, or that they earned all week by either being competitive or being attentive. And it really ends up being like just, it's unbelievable how many juniors you can have in a program that are all have 100% focus on what they're doing, just for a few crazy prizes, which really don't cost anything. It's not. I think it's not really the prizes itself. It's just the kids love the idea of winning something.
Definitely. I mean, that's a great motivator for them. We do something very similar with points, and they earn enough points, and then at the end of the semester, they get to go pick out what they want from Nike, because we use Nike.
There you go.
Okay, so everything that we do, especially with the more competitive kids, is for points. They're always playing for something, and because that's really what gets the best of them out on the golf course.
Sure, and that's a great idea. I like the idea of a point system, because if you think about it, when players go out there, they're shooting for scores. I mean, that's points, or they're shooting to get their best score for them personally, to get more points than they did the last time they were out, and that's a great motivator. And if they're always thinking on that way, then when they're working with you in your academy, or when they're practicing, or whatever it is they're doing, they're kind of putting a little bit of pressure on themselves to be in that competitive environment all the time. And that's a good place to be if eventually you're going to be a professional and end up in a competitive environment all the time.
Yeah, and we have on the wedge range, we have a leaderboard with dry erase marker, and we have low amateur, male, female, low junior golfer, boy, girl, and low pro, male, female. So there's 6 names on that board, and the one that people really vie for is the junior board, because they want their name up there with Zach Johnson and Sunwha Lee or Kim Kaufman. So that's a motivator in itself. And we had 3 people this year to hit all 8 blocks. The record was 56 by Nicole Morales. And then this girl, Jenny, she beat it. She got it in 40. She hit all 8 blocks in 40. And let me tell you, she was so excited. We had like a celebration because that's a huge accomplishment. Then you see all the other kids out there, they're trying to beat Jenny now. So just seeing their name up on top of something like a sign that Mike made is such a motivator for them. And then we do these short game tests that we post on, this little board we have outside the academy, and the kids want to see their names get up on the board. So, doesn't have to be big like you said, but something that pushes them, and that's the atmosphere that we try to create all the time.
Now, another great thing that you guys have, which a lot of academies don't have, that Mike put together, was a setup for uneven lies.
Oh yeah.
And where they're hitting, they can hit off of any lie, uphill, downhill, side hill, above their feet, below their feet, and that really is just huge, because there's so many players that when they go out there to practice, they're always hitting off a level lie. And maybe in Florida there's a lot more level lies,
Right.
because of the ground, or in New Jersey too, there's a lot more level lie. Like South Jersey, there's a lot of level lies, or when you're closer to the ocean, there's a lot of level lies. But I know that, like, for me here in the Pennsylvania area, if I find a level lie, one level lie, on a golf course around, that's lucky. It's not that often. So having that opportunity to hit off of different lies and getting students to work with that. Is there any way, and here's a crazy question, but is there any way to track with a TrackMan or something like that, trajectory off of something like that?
I'm sure there is. We haven't done it yet. I'm sure if you bring the TrackMan out to that uneven lie station, you can certainly figure out lots of things. You know, how much curvature should you expect off this lie? It'd be better if the lie board was adjustable too.
Yeah.
But pretty much all the same. So maybe that'll be Mike's next convention.
Yeah, to adjust it. I actually saw when I was down at the PGA show this past year, I saw a gentleman who does, I believe I'll give him a plug, J.R. Mats.
Oh yeah, we use them.
I do too. And
Yep.
And he actually has a thing that's like, it looks like little jacks that you crank, and it changes it. So Mike might want to look at that.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, and then another one too, which is the gentleman who does the who represents Sam Putt's lab.
Mm-hmm.
He has actually one that he can do for putting, and that's actually uses little hydraulic lifts that are remote control.
Yeah.
And that I thought was really pretty cool, where you could change the
incredible.
slope of the green, and then to practice on. So that's really a neat idea too. So those are things that, if you think about it, it gets players a lot closer to real world situations than level lies.
No question. And we also have those poles out in the middle of the range. We call them zones. And there's one red pole right in the middle. That's your target. And then there's stripe poles on each side of the red pole. The first two stripe poles are 15 feet from that solid red pole. So we expect you to try and hit your wedge within the, that space on either side. So even on the uneven lie boards, we are expecting the students find a way to hit the ball and land it in that zone. And then the second stripe poles, those are 20 feet from the red pole. The third one is 25 feet away. And the fourth one is 35 feet away. So you have a zone for a wedge, 9-iron, and then 7-8 iron, 5-6 iron, and then your hybrids. And if you don't get them within that zone, then we either have you do it again, or, we give you challenges. Let's see how many you get out of 5. I'll pay you $1 each time you get it within the zone. And then we also have on a range a driver zone that's 20 yards wide. So like you said, it's hard to replicate the golf course on the driving range, but I think everybody's getting better at trying to, add some pressure on their ranges for the general public to actually, think about hitting shots rather than just beating balls.
Sure. So for those listeners out there in Par Nation who actually are instructors, and you might work at a range or have a range at your facility, some of these ideas are great things to just incorporate in what you have to add. Price point wise, it really doesn't cost a lot to do that. It really doesn't. I mean, we're talking about some concrete blocks. You can probably even go to Home Depot and get those little concrete squares that they sell, and put them out there with a little bit of tilt on them. There you go. Put a little bit of tilt on them, right? And so that way they can kick the ball up in the air at a certain angle. And then poles out there. I mean, what does it cost to put a pole up? I mean, it can't be that much.
I think it costs us maybe $200 to get all those stripe poles out there.
Yeah, which is really, when you think about it, as an investment as to how it's going to really help your students, have targets to hit to. I mean, golf is a game about hitting a target, or hitting it to a point. So if you have something that's easier to visualize, as opposed, I know for me personally, when I play golf, I always play better when everything's tight, because it makes me focus on a specific point. And then I hit it to that point. When I have a course that's wide open and there's really nothing to look at, I have a tough time visualizing a point or finding a spot to hit it to. So as a range, these type of ideas are good. And then that tilting up of those blocks that allows them to see them, correct?
Yes, it's easier to see them. You just kind of get the slope to go, like our driving range is a slight incline up, so the blocks, you can see them better when they're just, up a little bit.
Sure.
Just talking a little pitched up, not a whole lot.
Right. Not like at a 45-degree
Yeah.
angle or something where it's shooting the ball back at the
4
guy who
degrees.
hit it. Right. Yeah, just a few degrees up. Right.
Yeah.
So 4 or 5 degree slope should be plenty.
I've seen some people, there's probably 100 wedge ranges around in the country now, since I think Mike's the first person who started it, honestly. But I've seen some people paint the blocks or put numbers on the blocks. You could put I think Bernie Najar at Caves Valley even has the logo on the blocks.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Okay, so you personalize it.
Yeah, or hey, maybe you can go even further and get some sponsors to put
yeah.
and put sponsors on those blocks. Now you can get a little bit of money from the sponsor, and maybe the sponsor will pay for the block for you. So that's
know.
yeah. I mean, and then it's out there, and it's something. It's a target, and it
That's
works
actually
great.
a great idea. I mean, if I was a local restaurant in town, I
There you
wouldn't
go.
mind having my name on that block.
Hey, that might not be a bad idea for you guys to do.
I'm going to tell Mike that right now.
I'll just take 2%.
That's for you. You've got it.
So yeah, it's a great way to build a little bit of extra cash in to pay off that major debt. That's a heck of a facility, so it's going to take some time to pay that off. That's for sure.
Yes, it is.
And that could maybe speed up the process a little bit, having some sponsors out there. So
Definitely. Anything will
Yeah.
help.
So for our listeners who are interested in, and here's the great thing, because we have listeners around the planet. So for our listeners who are interested in either becoming a part of the elite program and actually flying in there and living with you, in this at the school and being
Yeah,
a
we
big
have,
part of that, or for listeners who are in driving distance or who just want to come down for maybe a couple of weeks and then say, hey, you know what, it'd be great for me to go down there. I'm going to Florida for a few weeks. It would be great for me to stop in there to Mike's Academy and take a lesson with Cheryl or with Mike or someone on the team and take advantage of all these wonderful, great things that is out there, or just to come out and visit and see that facility. Would be a great thing. So how can our listeners do that, and where would they go? Website, contact
that's the
info?
easiest thing. Just go to mikebender.com, and our phone number's on the website too. Of course, my name's on there. I think there's a direct email to me, but mikebender.com gets it done. And
Great.
Any professionals that are listening, we always welcome you to come out and check the academy and get ideas, and always just give us a call ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea for professionals, because what that does is just to go out there and maybe see what's there, and then also just kind of observe what you guys are doing. You have a very high-level program there, and it's a very successful program. And for people to use some of those ideas, I mean, that's how we all get better, by learning and getting ideas from each other and sharing them. And I know that you guys are very open to that, and that's a great thing to see.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Cheryl, it's always a pleasure. It's great to talk to you
Thank
again.
you so much, Bernie.
And and hopefully once I'm down there full time, I'll make a point to come out and visit a little bit more often. I would love to be one of those people who come out and observe for a day.
And I would love to come watch you too.
That'd be great.
Awesome.
All right, so what we always say in parting is try to keep it in the short grass. I know most of your students are doing that anyway, but the more we can do that, the easier the game becomes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan is brought to you by Impact Zone Golf Academy, located at Tiburon Golf Club at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Resort and Impact Zone Golf World Headquarters, both located in Naples, Florida.